about Srimad Bhagavatam as a great holy text, a very exceptional compendium, spiritual and philosophical and yogic compendium. It is generally called a Samhita. This consists of, as you know, 18,000 Sanskrit verses, divided into 12 skandhas, and all the skandhas together containing about 335 chapters. Generally we say about the Srimad Bhagavatam that it is a scripture on devotion, the genesis of devotion, the growth of devotion, and the excellence and fulfillment of devotion. But is it only that? Is an important question I would like to pose before all of you. It is not that. If it only deals with bhakti, then throughout the text we need write only 2 letters, bhakti, 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 devotion, devotion, devotion. It is not so. It is an unusual and a splendid narration. Narration of truths, principles, values, ideas, a number of other items allied with these, everything bearing upon the human mind and the human intelligence. Understand, Parikshit was seated, and right in his front was the young ascetic boy wearing no apparel or dress on his body. He goes on reciting, narrating whatever he narrated. And it continued for 7 days, you should understand. It contains a lot of information, not information, knowledge. It gives you a splendid exposure to your own personality, the human personality, to the entire visible but infinitely splendid world. We have not known so far anything like an end or a boundary of this world. But it explains how all this is occurring or transpiring. So the entire discussion is around the human mind, around the human intelligence, covering the entire orbit of creation. So you can imagine what all subjects should have been covered in this wonderful text. How much of detail it has gone into, and what kind of a magnitude, measure and profundity it embodies at every point. This is something to be repeatedly thought about. I have always felt greatly sorry for the intellectual community of our country because they miserably miss the wonderful contribution and enrichment this great holy text and similar ones can bestow upon human personality. If our administrators, the intelligentsia, so to say, of the country, are rightly exposed to the treasure, that the knowledge treasure that our scriptures and scriptural compositions have, I think the whole country would become different. I think we would have been far different from and superior to Vaikuntha and Kailasa. Unfortunately, for strange reasons, our intellectual community denies itself the benefit of the enrichment which Srimad Bhagavata and such other compositions can surely contribute and bestow upon them. Just see the first verse itself of Srimad Bhagavatam. A number of discourses have been made from this platform ever since we began the Srimad Bhagavata Tattva Sameeksha Satram in this holy land of Naimisharanya. But I wonder whether anybody exposed the first verse. If at all anybody has exposed, I don't know. If it has been exposed, has it been exposed amply well? Srimad Bhagavata on the one hand says, I am extremely sweet and delicious, day after day and word after word. The same Srimad Bhagavata describes itself as Vidyavatam Bhagavate Pariksha. For the erudite, the scholarly and the intelligent, the rational people, Srimad Bhagavata poses a constant question paper, an examination for even the best of intellectuals in this world. Why it is so? It's very, very difficult to explain the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you start writing a commentary on it, I'm almost sure that it will run into dozens and scores of pages. Janmadyasya yatonvayadidharataha chartheshvabhijnaswarat tene brahmahrida yadhikavaye muhyanti yat suraya tejo varimrdam yatha vinimayo yatra sargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirasta mukagam satyam param dhimahi satyam param dhimahi. In this first verse, opening verse, Srimad Bhagavatam presents before you what is the content, what is the message, how is it to be approached, and what is going to be the benefit if you approach it, pursue it, practice it, and perfect it. What is the subject discussed here? As many people may say, devotion is the subject discussed here. Just see the opening verse. Janmadyasya yataha. These are the opening words. Asya janma adi yataha. We are discussing that one particular subject, namely the source from where the entire beginningless creation has proceeded. Janma means birth or emergence. Asya means of this world. Call it a world, call it creation, call it universe, or call it your own mind. Whatever you are seeing here, whatever you are surrounded by, whatever you are pervaded by, whatever you are experiencing, cognizing, recognizing, comprehending, sensing or apprehending, whatever it is, wherefrom has it had its origin? Wherefrom does it emerge? We are discussing here that supreme reality, that supreme source from where the whole endless and beginningless universe has proceeded or emerged. Tell me now whether it is simply bhakti or something stupendous. It's a kind of a proposition. It's a kind of a subject. It's a kind of a goal. It is going to be a profound challenge to your mind and heart. And for the intelligent people, it is going to be a greater challenge for their masterly, competent intellect. Janmadyasya yataha. See, we are all living upon this earth. If I ask you, what kind of a source do you have? Can you tell me who is the first set of parents? No. Even if the first set of parents were there, wherefrom have they come? They would have come only from the earth, only from water, only from air, only from the surrounding things, the Panchabhutas. But do the Panchabhutas or does any one of them have the intelligence or the power of cognition, the power of sensation, the power of thinking, the power of understanding, the power of memorizing as we have? The answer will only be no. How is it that we human beings, with such a cognizing, comprehending power, how is it that we have been evolved from the Panchabhutas which lack this wonderful power? Don't you find a contradiction there? Is it not a conflict? So certainly the subject has to be inquired into. Wherefrom did we derive our body? Wherefrom did we derive our senses? Wherefrom has it come? If you say you are born of the first parents, the question remains, wherefrom the first parents have come? What existed before the first set of parents? Obviously, the bare matter, the inert and insentient material world alone existed. From the material sources, you cannot have a spiritual person, a mental person, an intellectual person, an ego person like the human being. So there is a mystery, there is an enigma, there is a paradox about the whole affair. Are you understanding what I say? Huh? There is a paradox. How can we unravel it? Which book of knowledge will give us the right information or enlightenment on this subject? There are so many texts, so many branches of knowledge evolved and imparted in the campus, university campuses. But will they be able to tell us wherefrom the whole universe has emerged? The scientists are always experimenting and researching into whatever is seen, the visible, They inquire into the final particles and constitution of matter on the one hand, and perhaps energy on the other. But these are belonging to the visible world, the material world. We would like to know how all this materiality, the material structure and the material divisions, where from have they evolved? What is actually the source of existence? What is the source of existence? What is the source of materiality? What is the source of knowledge? What is the source of experience? This is the inquiry. Don't think that it is a small inquiry. It's an inquiry to pursue which you will have to dedicate very dedicatedly perhaps the whole of your life. Now Sreemad Bhagavata is speaking about it. So it is not a text as you think purely only of devotion. Chant the name of God. Install Him in your heart. Be loving Him. Be dedicated to Him. Resign yourselves before Him. Everything should be engulfed by Him. Yes, Srimad Bhagavata says all this, but not only this. That is the difference. To make you understand the profundity of the text, the magnitude and the potential the text carries, the first verse gives you a beautiful description. Janmadhyasya yatonvayadi taradaha. You know we have something called prasthanatrayam. What is this prasthanatrayam? That is actually the cultural treasure of this land. You generally hear only about itihasas, epics and puranas, mythological compositions. We have a number of prakarana granthas, subsidiary texts authored by a number of authors. But all these are subsidiary in the lower level. But the original texts are prasthanatrayam. It is actually a triplet, so to say. The first section or the first segment will be the Upanishads, the Vedic Upanishads. Mind you, the Vedas are the first source of knowledge for us. In the Vedas there are 4 sections. Samhita constitutes the first, Brahmanas constitute the next, Aranyaka the third, and the Upanishads the fourth. Only in the Upanishads you find an ample inquiry or different types of inquiry presented before you and pursued systematically and consistently, and finally you are able to arrive at the supreme reality right in your own heart without an iota of doubt or skepticism about it. So the Upanishads are the first constituent of Prasthanatraya. The word Prasthana itself means a knowledge voyage. The spiritual wisdom is actually a voyage. Just like you take a pilgrimage and you have a goal, a destination, here also we want to know the supreme reality, the supreme source. And in order to arrive at it, interact with it, experience it directly firsthand, we make the knowledge. Such a journey can obviously be inside the body. It cannot be outside the body. It's a journey that I perform within myself, within the perimeter of my body, employing the 2 instruments called the mind and the intelligence. When you take such a prasthana, whatever happens, that is described in the prasthanatraya. So the first constituent is the Upanishad. The second constituent is Bhagavad Gita, taken from the Smriti. The first is called Shruti, the second is called Smriti. Bhagavad Gita itself comes in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. Mahabharata itself contains 1.25 lakhs of Sanskrit verses, and Bhagavad Gita is one section of it incorporated in the Shanti Parva towards the end of the treatise. This Bhagavad Gita itself is the first commentary or elucidation of the scattered thoughts of the Upanishads. That is the second constituent. What is the third constituent of Prasthanatraya? It is called Brahma Sutras. They are all aphoristic statements in the form of aphorisms, short and cryptic statements where profound truths are contained and disseminated. Altogether, 500 odd sutras are there. In the Upanishads, the thoughts, the inquiries, the findings, the assessments, the declarations and the professions, all of them are lying in a scattered and a distributed manner. In the Brahma Sutras you find Badarayana has collected all of them and he has strung them together in a very sequential manner. That is why it is called Brahma Sutra. the first 4 sutras are the most pronounced. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. Will you recite this for me? Athato. What happened? Athato Brahma Jijnasa. Now therefore is the enquiry into Brahman, the supreme reality. What is meant by now, and what is meant by therefore, and what is the meaning of enquiry, and then what is the meaning of Brahman. In this way the commentator will go on explaining every word, perhaps taking page after page. What is this Brahman, the supreme reality? What is to be done in its context? You have to inquire about it, discover and realize it. And in discovering what is to be done, who is competent, what are the qualifications? Is it by virtue of age? Is it by virtue of birth in a special family? Or is it by virtue of some qualifications or prerequisites which your mind and intelligence and heart have? This is threadbare discussed there. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. By inquiring into the supreme reality called Brahman, in what way will human life be benefited? Is it a promotion or a demotion? Is it an enrichment or is it an enervation? Is it an elevation or is it a contraction? All these points are discussed. The second sutra is Janmadhyasya Yataha. That is why I told you this. The second sutra is Brahman is that from where the entire visible creation has sprung or emerged. Will you not like to know your parents? Will you not like to know their parents? Will you not like to know the first parents? Will you not like to know the source of the first parents? If you like yourself, you have been a son, you are a son or you are a daughter. Where have I been born? I have been born from my parents. From where are they born? From their parents. Ultimately, on going back, the first parents, where from were they born? If you are not prepared to inquire, can I call you a human being? A human being is noted for the knowledge acquisition that he should make. A cow eats, a bird also eats. They don't know about anything like their food. They have never analyzed it. In the case of man, we want to analyze and try to know everything about our life. We have got intelligence. The only requirement and quest of this intelligence is knowledge, 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 the quest for knowledge. As our stomach feels hungry and hunger needs to be appeased, the mind wants peace and contentment and it has to be given. In the same manner, the intelligence has to be constantly fed and nourished by knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Unless you make efforts to improve your knowledge, enhance your knowledge, to refine and reform your knowledge, to elevate your knowledge, your humanhood is not justified at all. We are not born here to eat, drink, sleep and multiply. We are born here to know what we are, what is this world, who is God, and what is my goal of life. Unless this inquiry is taken up, human life is not worth itself at all. Let us be very clear about it.